you think about it, Christmas is weird, isn't it? You bring a tree indoors and cover it in plastic doodads and little twinkly lights, eat a daily ration of chocolate, and lie to your kids about a large bearded man breaking into your house and leaving them presents. And that's just the run-up to the big day. Don't get me started on the dry poultry, the money-filled pudding, or the tiny explosive devices that conceal an awful present in a silly hat. It's absolute lunacy. Since Christmas is so bizarre, there's no wonder that Christmas-themed video games can be a little strange. And you know how much we love peculiar video games here at Team TripleJump. For today's festive list, we're taking a look through the archives to find the most bonkers holiday-adjacent titles that the world of gaming has to offer. Grab yourself a mince pie and a little glass of Baileys, because I'm Ashton from TripleJump, and here are the 10 weirdest Christmas video games of all time. Number 10, Toy Commander Christmas Special. We're kicking off our list with something of a forgotten gem. It's likely that you remember Toy Commander, the Dreamcast exclusive, in which forgotten toys rise up to defeat the new ones and replace them as their child's favourite. But did you know that it got a Christmas-themed demo? Toy Commander Christmas Special was given to players free with a copy of the official Dreamcast magazine in 1999. The premise is simple yet bizarre. Players take control of a jetpack-wearing Santa Claus, as well as a bunch of drivable toys, and must look for lost presents and return them to the tree. The jetpack-toting Santa Claus would be weird enough, in and of itself, but what makes Toy Commander Christmas Special even more weird is the fact that the level in the festive demo doesn't actually exist in the full game. Now, admittedly, it's not unheard of for a demo to be different from the final product. However, Toy Commander itself had absolutely nothing to do with Christmas, making the choice to give players a festive taste of the action a somewhat odd one. With all that said though, Toy Commander Christmas Special isn't bad, but considering how hard it is to come across these days, you'll have to be extra nice if you want Santa to bring you a copy this Christmas. Number 9, Christmas Lemmings series. Having visited a shopping centre during the Christmas rush, I can absolutely understand the desire to fling oneself from atop a cliff, and we can only assume that whoever came up with the concept for Christmas Lemmings has had a similar experience at some point. If you're not familiar with the premise of Lemmings, then allow me to clue you in. The aim of the game is to guide a group of anthropomorphized lemmings through each level, traversing a variety of obstacles in order to get them to the exit, saving as many lemmings as possible in the process. To make this easier, players can assign skills to certain lemmings to alter the landscape, though these are limited, so careful planning is needed in order to save enough of the little critters. The Christmas Lemmings games, or Holiday Lemmings if you want to get alternate title about this, released between 1991 and 1994, and retain the same gameplay, just in a more festive setting. I don't know about you, but I can't think of anything more Christmassy than trying to prevent the mass suicide of dozens of rodents. What do you mean, maybe I should see a therapist? Rude. Number 8, Elf Bowling. If you've tried to catch a train or go to the hospital recently, you'll know all about the concept of a strike. Basically, if workers are unhappy with some aspect of their employment, be it their pay, working conditions, or terms, then they can band together and refuse to work, which causes chaos for their employers and will hopefully result in the demand being met. Apparently, if you work for Santa and go on strike, however, he'll use you as a bowling pin, along with several of your striking comrades, and hurl hefty balls at you as some sort of ironic punishment. You might recognise Elf Bowling from our 10 worst Christmas video games of all time list from a few years ago, but the premise is so utterly bonkers that we couldn't not include it here as well. It gets worse though, because there are not 1, not 2, but 8 Elf Bowling titles, and a film adaptation that stars Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants. Assaulting striking employees is one thing, but honestly I've no idea how they got an entire franchise out of it. On a related note, if you're not in a union, join one. No punchline here, it's just a sensible thing to do. Number 7, James Pond 2, codename Robocod. Sometimes you'll come up with the idea and the pun will follow. Other times you'll have an idea for a pun first, then we'll have to shape your entire project around said pun. We suspect this is what happened with the James Pond series. The original James Pond is a parody of the, you guessed it, Spy Kids series, but has nothing to do with the holiday season. Its sequel, however, James Pond 2 codename Robocod, does have a festive slant, and sees the titular James taking on his arch-nemesis, Dr. Maybe, get it? Who is hunkered down in Santa's workshop and taken all the workers hostage. Across a series of platforming levels, James must infiltrate the workshop, liberate penguins, and retrieve toys, before donning the Robocod suit, Jesus Christ, and facing off against his rival. As wacky and weird as the premise is, James Pond 2, codename Robocod, is actually pretty good. So if you're after a bit of punny platforming fun this festive season, then you could do a whole lot worse than looking into James's Pond. Not our James's Pond, of course. His garden water feature is filled with algae and dead insects. Number 6, Days Before Christmas. Tea. It's delicious, it makes everything better, and it has the ability to transform drinkers into a demonic entity. Or at least that's what Days Before Christmas would have us believe. Released in 1994 for the Mega Drive and SNES, Days Before Christmas sounds, on paper, like fairly normal festive fare. Players take control of Santa Claus, who is on a mission to save Christmas after an evil mouse stole all the kids' presents, and put a curse on them. So far, so normal. Along the way, he must use his magical powers to turn enemies into harmless Christmas presents, collect Santa hats to replenish his energy, and pick up power-ups that can boost his powers. Again, so far, so normal. What puts Days Before Christmas on this list, however, is the fact that Santa can turn into Anti-Claus, a sort of demonic-looking blue-suited version of himself by drinking tea. Anti-Claus is invincible, though can't use magic, and attacks enemies by bludgeoning them with a sack full of toys. I just thank the universe that my chimney was blocked up some decades ago. I feel like Christmas would be somewhat spoiled if one of my family members was beaten to within an inch of their life by an evil blue Santa. Number 5, Special Delivery, Santa's Christmas Chaos. Gather round, viewers, because it's time for Auntie Ashton to tell you about Santa Claus. You see, on Christmas Eve every year, Santa rides out of the North Pole on his sleigh to gather presents from angels, all while avoiding demons and murderous children. What do you mean that's not how your mum tells the story? Do I look like your mum? Indeed, that's how the story goes if Special Delivery Santa's Christmas Chaos is to be believed. Released in 1984 for the Commodore 64, ZX Spectrum and Atari 8-bit family, Special Delivery has players take control of Santa, who, after oversleeping, must rush to get all the presents to the children of the world in time for Christmas. Bizarrely, rather than, just collecting the presents from his toy factory at the North Pole, where he lives, he has angels drop the presents onto his sleigh as he goes. It gets weirder though, because apparently, the forces of hell have caught wind of his lateness, and so he must avoid presents that are dropped by demons. Plus, when he finally makes it into a child's home, he must avoid the kiddos at all costs. Because apparently, they're all armed with a disintegration ray. Honestly, I'd just give it up as a bad job and deliver twice as much presents next year. It all averages out, right? Number 4, Duke Nukem Nuclear Winter. I'm sure that we can all agree that Duke Nukem is a pretty weird bloke, so it's probably not all that strange that he's appeared in his own festive video game expansion pack. If you take a step back though, the whole thing is pretty mental. Released in December 1997, Nuclear Winter takes place after the events of Duke Nukem 3D, and sees everyone's favourite video game character called Duke travelling to the North Pole in order to put a stop to Santa Claus, who has been brainwashed by the very aliens that Duke previously defeated, and are also now supported by a force known as the Feminist Elven Militia. Honestly, there is no sigh big enough, but I'll try my best. It's not just the premise that's weird and groan-worthy, because everything else about this game is as well, and despite the original Duke Nukem 3D getting a reasonable reception from critics and audiences, the same can't be said for Nuclear Winter. Most negativity was directed at the maps and gameplay, the former for their blandness, and the latter for its over-reliance on backtracking. Trust us, actual Nuclear Winter would probably be more preferable than this bizarre nonsense. Number 3, Merry Gear Solid, Secret Santa. Unfortunately, this one isn't in any way affiliated with the legendary Hideo Kojima, and is instead a fan-made project. But it is a game, it's festive, and it's pretty weird, so it definitely counts. Designed by Arthur the Pedunkian Lee and developed by Insignificant Studios, Metal Gear Solid Secret Santa is a send-up of the Metal Gear franchise, and follows Solid Santa as he attempts to deliver Christmas presents. Unfortunately, the hardened military veteran is unable to use conventional delivery methods as security is at an all-time high thanks to a recent spate of terrorist attacks, and as such, Solid Santa must enter homes on foot and try to go undetected. Using stealth and a variety of different skills and weapons, Solid Santa's goal is to sneak into homes, avoiding the prowling adults and naughty children, in order to fulfill his mission. The great news is the game is free of charge on Mr. Pedunkian's website, and if it doesn't fully scratch your itch for holiday-themed espionage, then there's a sequel to sink your teeth into as well, which sees Cold Snake sneaking into a mall in order to prevent the ghosts of Christmas past from throwing the world into a state of perpetual naughtiness. We wouldn't want that now, would we? Number 2, Christmas Nights. Released in 1996, Nights into Dreams was one of the best reasons to own a Sega Saturn. The game sees teenagers Elliott and Clarice enter the dream world of Nightopia, where they meet Knights, an exiled Nightmarian, and embark upon a journey to stop the evil ruler Wiseman, who is destroying Knights and, by extension, the real world. A short, Christmas-themed version of the game was released in December 1996, which once again follows Elliott and Clarice. Only this time they must travel to Nightopia to reunite with Knights and retrieve the Christmas star from Gillywig's lair in order to put it in its rightful place atop the Twin Seeds Christmas tree. What's strange about this one is that, despite being called Christmas Nights, it's not actually a Christmas game all year round. The title uses the Saturn's internal clock to change elements of the game depending on the date and time, so during December players will get a full festive experience, but at any other time of the year, such as New Year's Day or April Fool's Day, the game will be quite different. So in short, it's a Christmas video game, just not all the time. How odd. And number 1, Santa's Xmas Caper. We've all been there. It's the 24th of December, and you decide to have a wee glass of sherry before bed. It is Christmas, after all. However, before you know it, it's 4 in the morning, and you've gone through the entire bottle. Oops! Oh well, I hear turkey is a great hangover cure, and at least you've not got any presents to deliver. Someone without such a luxury is Santa Claus himself, who, in Santa's Xmas Caper for the Commodore 64, has gone a bit squiffy after eating 10 helpings of Christmas pudding that naughty Greenland pixies had spiked with wine. Hang on a second, 10 helpings of Christmas pudding? Can someone get Santa checked for diabetes? Thankfully, before he passed out, he was able to pass instructions onto the player character, who must save Christmas by delivering presents to all the deserving boys, girls, and others. In this side-scrolling shooter, please don't ask me why Santa's sleigh can fire projectiles because I haven't the foggiest, players must guide Santa's stand-in across the sky, avoiding pixie objects as they do so, to make it to the end of the level so that they can fight a pixie boss and deliver the presents. The actual gameplay is quite standard fare, but the premise is absolutely nuts. Perhaps avoid the boozy puds next year, big lad?